Story 1. So I had just driven all the way from another state to visit my best friend. It had been a while since we hung out, and you know how it is. You plan something, but life keeps getting in the way. Well, this time I finally said, screw it, and made the trip. We spent the weekend catching up, had a few laughs, and just chilled like old times. By the time I decided to head back, it was already late, and I had a long drive ahead of me. I thought I'd be fine though. I mean, I'd done long drives before. So I got in my car and started the drive back home. The first couple of hours were all right, nothing special. The road stretched on, and I was just trying to keep myself entertained by flipping through radio stations or singing along to whatever came on. But as the night dragged on, the road started feeling endless. It was one of those stretches of highway where there's no one else around. Just you, the road, and miles of nothing. After a while, I felt my eyelids getting heavy. You know when you try to stay awake, but your body's like, nope, we're done here. Yeah, that was me. The thought of pulling over crossed my mind, but I didn't want to waste any time. I just wanted to get home. But after a bit, I realized I wasn't going to make it if I didn't at least rest for a few minutes. So I pulled off to the side of the road. It was one of those quiet, deserted areas where there's not a soul in sight. I killed the engine, leaned my seat back and closed my eyes, thinking a quick nap would do the trick. I must have dozed off for a while, because when I woke up, everything was dark, pitch black outside. It took me a second to figure out where I was, and then I remembered, middle of nowhere, on some random stretch of highway, far from anyone or anything. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the grogginess, and that's when I heard it. A voice. At first I thought I was still dreaming, but it was clear as day. "Hey man," it said. It sounded exactly like my best friend. It was like he was standing right outside the car. Now I was confused as hell. My buddy lived back in the state I'd just driven from, and there's no way he could have been out here in the middle of nowhere. But the voice, it sounded just like him. I sat up, blinking hard, thinking maybe I was just imagining it. I mean, I was tired, right? Maybe I was still half asleep or something. Then I heard it again. "Hey, come on out, let's talk," it said. Same tone, same voice. It had to be him, but that didn't make any sense. My heart started racing a little, because the longer I sat there, the more I realized something was seriously off. Why would he be out here, on this empty road, in the middle of the night? My gut was telling me not to get out of the car. I felt this tightness in my chest, like something was just wrong, you know? But at the same time, I was curious. The voice sounded so much like him, like my best friend standing just a few feet away, waiting for me to answer. So instead of getting out, I did something even stupider. I rolled the window all the way down. "Dude," I called out, "is that you?" Silence. I leaned a little closer to the open window, straining my ears. "Come on, man. Where are you?" I tried to sound casual, but my voice cracked a little. My hands were sweating, gripping the steering wheel even though the car wasn't moving. I couldn't see anything outside. Just black. No lights, no movement, nothing. The only sound was the wind brushing against the car. Then I heard it again. "Come on out, man, I'm right here." The voice was closer now, but it still didn't feel right. It was like my friend's voice, but with something off, something that didn't belong. It sent a chill down my spine. I stared out the window, but I couldn't see him. I couldn't see anyone. My pulse was racing. My gut was telling me to roll that window back up and get the hell out of there, but I just couldn't. I had to know. It was like something had a hold on me, keeping me from driving away. Then I heard a soft shuffle, like footsteps coming toward the car. I froze. "Where are you?" I asked again, my voice barely more than a whisper. But again, no answer. Just that quiet, shuffling sound coming from somewhere in the darkness. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, pointing it out the window. The beam cut through the dark, lighting up the empty road ahead of me. I waved it around, hoping, praying, I'd see something. But there was nothing there. No one. That's when I finally started listening to my gut. I hit the button and rolled the window up as fast as I could, my hand shaking the whole time. My heart was pounding like crazy and I was trying to make sense of what just happened. But before I could think too much, I started the car and pulled back onto the road. I didn't care about being tired anymore. I just needed to get away from there. I drove for a few miles, the radio playing low, but I couldn't focus on anything except what I just heard. I was trying to convince myself it was just my imagination, just a bad dream or something. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Then, just as I was starting to calm down a bit, I saw something up ahead. My stomach dropped. There, on the side of the road, was my best friend. He was standing there, clear as day, waving at me. My foot hit the brakes and I slowed down, squinting at him through the windshield. I swear it was him. The same clothes, the same smile, like he was just waiting for me to stop and pick him up. But he couldn't be here. There was no way. I inched the car forward, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were turning white. As I got closer, I started to notice something was off. His smile didn't reach his eyes. They looked empty, cold. I don't know what came over me, but I slammed my foot on the gas and sped right past him. I couldn't look back. I couldn't even think straight. All I knew was that wasn't my friend, not really. Whatever that was, it had his face, his voice, but it wasn't him. I didn't stop driving until I was far from that place, and I haven't told my friend about it. I don't know what I saw that night, and honestly, I don't want to know. How do you even explain something like that? All I know is, whatever I heard that night, it wasn't him, and I'm never stopping on a deserted road like that again. Story 2. I just came back from visiting my girlfriend. She lived in Sacramento, a city that was pretty far from where I stay, like a good 3-4 hours drive, you know? I didn't mind the drive though, because being with her always made it worth it. But man, this night, I was so beat. You know how it is. Sometimes you're just done after a long day, and tonight, that drive home just felt way longer than usual. I remember looking at the road, lights zooming past, but it was like my eyes were struggling to keep up. I kept telling myself, just a little longer, you're almost there. But my body wasn't listening. My eyes were getting heavy, and the road seemed like it was stretching out forever in front of me. I could feel myself slipping, like my brain was shutting down and nothing was processing anymore. There wasn't much around, mostly empty fields and stretches of dark highway with no lights. Finally, I gave in and figured it'd be safer to just pull over and crash for a bit, you know? I found a little spot on the side of the road. There were no other cars in sight, just me, the road, and this overwhelming sense of quiet. I killed the engine and leaned my seat back, closing my eyes, thinking I'd just nap for like 20 minutes or so. That's what I thought anyway. I don't know how long I was out for, but something woke me up. At first, I wasn't sure what it was. I thought maybe I just heard something in my sleep or my brain was playing tricks on me. I sat up a bit, squinting out the windshield. Everything outside was dark, pitch black actually. The only light came from the moon, and even that was faint. I could barely see the road ahead of me, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. And then I heard it again. A voice. At first it was soft, almost like a whisper, and it sounded so familiar. I was half awake, so I was confused, but then it clicked. It sounded like my girlfriend. I could have sworn it was her voice. It was weird because it was late, and she was back home, nowhere near here. I told myself I must have been imagining things. I mean, it didn't make any sense. I was probably just thinking about her or dreaming, right? But the voice didn't stop. It was soft, like she was calling me, trying to get my attention. "Babe," it said, but not loud or anything. Just enough for me to hear it clearly. I looked around, peering through the darkness outside. I was half awake and confused, like, what the hell? I sat there for a second, listening. The voice was still there. "Babe, come here." It sounded exactly like her, but it was coming from outside the car. Now, I don't know why, but I actually started to believe it. It was late, I was tired, and maybe a little out of it, but part of me was like, what if she's out there? It made no sense, but the voice was so convincing. So, like an idiot, I opened the door and stepped out. As soon as I stepped outside, the air felt different. It was colder than it should have been for a night like this. I stood by the car for a minute, scanning the road. There was nothing. No sign of her, no cars, just the open road and fields on both sides. "Babe!" I called out, but there was no answer. Then, just when I was about to get back in the car, I heard it again. "Babe, over here!" This time it was coming from the field. It was her voice, I swear. I walked a little closer to the edge of the road, trying to see where it was coming from. The field was just this big empty space, tall grass swaying in the breeze, but I couldn't see anyone. But the voice, it kept calling me, almost playful, like she was hiding out there somewhere. Something about it felt off, though. My gut was telling me to get back in the car and drive away, but I didn't listen. I just stood there, staring into the darkness, listening to that familiar voice. I called out her name, but again no answer, just the same whisper. "Babe, come here." I took another step forward, and I swear to God, I saw something move in the grass. It wasn't her, though. It was like a shadow, dark and low, slithering through the field. My heart started pounding, and I felt this wave of panic wash over me. The voice kept calling, but now it didn't sound so sweet anymore. It sounded wrong, like someone trying to mimic her voice but not getting it quite right. That's when I realized something. My girlfriend wasn't out here. She couldn't be. There was no way. The more I thought about it, the more it started to sink in. Whatever was out there, it wasn't her. I backed up slowly, my eyes still glued to the field, and that's when I saw it again. That shadow, it was moving closer, creeping through the grass, and it was getting bigger, like something was rising out of the ground. My breath caught in my throat, and I bolted back to the car, slamming the door shut behind me. I turned the key in the ignition, but nothing. The engine wouldn't start. My heart was racing. I kept trying, but the car wouldn't start. Meanwhile, the voice, it was right outside the car now, so close I could hear it through the window. "Babe, let me in." I didn't even look. I couldn't. I knew if I looked, I'd see something I couldn't handle. My hands were shaking as I turned the key one last time, praying for the engine to start. And finally, it did. I slammed on the gas, pulling out of there as fast as I could. The whole drive back, I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see something following me. I never did, but that voice, it stayed with me, echoing in my head the whole way home. Even now I can still hear it sometimes, late at night when everything's quiet. I don't pull over on the side of the road anymore, not after that night. I don't know what it was, but I don't ever want to find out. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, check out more of my videos on the screens above or visit my channel for even more. Don't forget to subscribe for future updates. Stay safe and take care.